Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my top 10 movies of 2017. This list is coming at you a couple of weeks into the new year, but I wanted to be fully confident that this was as genuine of a list as I could make. I wanted to see all the movies that I thought could possibly make it onto this list before presenting it with you. So while I didn't see every 2017 release that even hit theaters, I saw a very good number of films, most of which I reviewed right here on the channel, some of which I didn't quite get around to reviewing, but in all, I saw a lot of films in 2017, and I saw a lot of great films. And that made finalizing and ordering, picking this list super difficult. But the decisions have been made, the ranking has been submitted, and I am confident with the list that I'm presenting with you today that it reflects my personal top 10 favorite films of 2017. So before we begin, just a disclaimer, these are the films I enjoyed the most. They're not necessarily ranked on which ones I think are the most well-made films or the best films from technical standpoints. These are just my personal 10 favorites of the year. So it's all subjective and it's all down to personally which ones affected me the most, which ones lasted with me the longest, which ones had the greatest impact on me as a viewer. So without further ado, let's jump right into the countdown. A nearly perfect conclusion to a nearly flawless trilogy. War for the Planet of the Apes was everything I had really hoped it would be. It was exciting, it was intelligent, it was beautifully executed from all visual standpoints. The score was fantastic, and it hit on all the different notes I was hoping for. Bad Ape brought just the perfect amount of comedy to a very hefty and deep story, one that emotionally resonated, that showed some of the darker sides to war itself through apes. And of course, we got to watch Caesar's story continue and come to this conclusion, and while difficult to accept and hard to watch, of course, it was done perfectly. I don't think there was a better way to send off the Caesar chapter of this story. The Disaster Artist was my favorite comedy of the year. I didn't laugh as hard as I laughed watching this film with anything else in 2017. Of course, I've seen The Room, and just from the standpoint of recreating that film, I mean, it does a fantastic job. But what is so special about The Disaster Artist is that we have all these laughs. They really recreate the funny moments and do the winks and the nods so well to the audience. But there is so much heart when it comes to The Disaster Artist that elevates it to a whole new level. This could have felt like a very mean-spirited, almost spoof of The Room, a real jab at Tommy Wiseau, but instead what James Franco did so expertly was really make this an uplifting story, and in a lot of ways a tribute to what Tommy Wiseau was able to accomplish, even if it is widely regarded as the best, worst movie of all time. So it made me laugh, it inspired me, and really I just thought it was a beautiful film that defied expectation and went above and beyond what I thought this film was going to deliver. My favorite horror or thriller film of the year cracks into my top 10 films of the year. And why does Get Out make it? Because this was just a beautifully executed movie from all standpoints. In particular, though, that script is fantastic. I actually think Get Out has my favorite script of any film in 2017. The writing was just so good, so nuanced and intelligent, layered with metaphorical analogy, just so much meaning. Plus, it was a great directorial debut from Jordan Peele. The acting was fantastic. The thriller aspects of the film were a lot of fun. And as you watch the film, it's just so fun to kind of like peel back those layers with our main character, learning about this off-kilter family and understanding what's going in. The significance of the sunken place has become huge, and it gave me one of my favorite theater experiences of the entire year. So, that is why Get Out gets on to this list. And now my favorite animated film of the year also breaks into the top 10. What a special experience to have Pixar, one of the biggest and best animation studios, finally go there and make a film about your culture. And really, this is the first time Disney as a whole, when it comes to feature films, has went there. And wow, what an honor it was to get a film this great. The animation, of course, is absolutely stunning. But what is really stunning here is the heart. This is what Pixar does best. They create great characters, and we had a whole family of just fantastic characters that they worked on and they built up throughout the entire film, so that when we got to that third act and we got to the revelations and we had these big moments, those emotions, those feels really hit home. This is how you inform and teach people about a different culture and their traditions and their holidays while making it fun. So you're entertaining them while you're informing them, and I thought it was a great way to do that. There were a ton of laughs, there were a ton of cries. Coco just had everything you want from a Pixar film. Baby Driver blew me away in the movie theater. I thought the trailers looked cool for this, but I was not anticipating the film we got to be as flawlessly executed as it was. So many films, this year in particular, really used music to kind of set the mood for their film or really bring that energy to it to make it cool, make it sleek. We have this new era of like the awesome soundtrack going on, but no film did it, not only this year, but maybe ever, as good as Baby Driver. Upon rewatch, it is still baffling how perfect the music and the action are edited together. I mean, it is a thing of beauty to just watch and listen to this movie unfold before your eyes. And the action is filmed great anyway, so when you have the gunshots, the clicking, the movements, the slightest of details being set to the soundtrack as we're moving through it is amazing. Plus, the character of Baby is a wonderful character. We have great performances from all of our supporting cast, in particular, Jon Hamm. The action is fun. It's just a great time as you're watching. It's an exciting film, and one that just stuck with me. This is my favorite Edgar Wright film to date, and that's why it's all the way up at number 6 on my list. Being a fan of the original Blade Runner, I was definitely excited to see Blade Runner 2049. And thank goodness, the film more than lived up to expectation. This was so good. First of all, Roger Deakins and that cinematography, absolutely amazing. The cinematography in this film was mind-blowingly good. And you couple that with amazing visuals, this is just a movie you want to stare at for 2 hours and 45 minutes. It is so gorgeous. Then you add in that Hans Zimmer soundtrack that perfectly pays homage to the original soundtrack while adding to it and building upon it. So now you have 2 keys down. It sounds amazing, it looks amazing, and then you add this really complex, really awesome, thought-provoking script to the mix, and you have a near-perfect film. We continue to explore this crazy dystopian future, but we add a new central character with a ton of mystery around him in Ryan Gosling's Kay that really creates an interesting story with his holographic girlfriend that is an amazing character in and of herself, along with this mystery of this little baby, all of which, both storylines, bring on their own huge emotional revelations that don't ever end the way we anticipate them to end. This movie zigs as we're anticipating the typical zag, and it was a beautiful thing to behold. This movie is just amazing. I mean, what more can I say about it? Now this was a beautifully, weirdly enchanting experience. The Shape of Water is quite possibly Guillermo del Toro's best film. Certainly his best since Pan's Labyrinth. All of the Del Toro staples are here. Weird? Check. Gruesome? Check. A crazy monster creature? Check. And then beautiful sets and amazing visuals with a visual directorial flair? Check, 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 check in spades. But then you add these characters. These are some of the best characters of the year, as well as some of Guillermo's best characters to date. Sally Hawkins brings this beautiful woman to life and delivers what I think is the best performance of the year as she goes through as someone who can't even speak, but portrays more emotion than most people who have a full vocabulary at their disposal. Richard Jenkins is wonderful. Michael Shannon brings to life what could be a one-dimensional villain, but oddly feels very familiar in today's world. And you mix in these elements of saving a species with an out-of-the-box love story, and I'm immediately hooked. All of this taking place with this gorgeous color palette and the amazing cinematography that takes place here, all on top of my favorite original musical score of 2017. This was a very unconventional premise told over a familiar story pattern in which I think the two are blended beautifully well. And any film that can make me root for an interspecies love story has to be pretty high on my favorite films of the year. The perfect conclusion to one of my favorite sagas. Logan was fantastic. Starting with the performances, I don't think Hugh Jackman or Patrick Stewart, if I'm being honest, have delivered a better acting performance than they did in this film. They both brought their absolute top shelf A game to this movie, which is such a refreshing thing to see when it comes to a comic book film. But James Mangold also brought his top shelf level A game here. And when you have all of this talent delivering the very best that they can do, it's no wonder we were delivered with not only one of the best films of 2017, but definitely one of the best comic book genre films of all time. The script is absolutely fantastic. The stakes are human. They are real. It's very personal. And they scaled back the overall scope of the X-Men world to deliver a human and deep, dark, and powerful film. The only thing that held Logan back from being able to break into my top two was that third act gets a little bit wonky. That's where we kind of get into the superhero-y text, and it doesn't work very well, especially given all of the amazingness of the first two acts. But then we close it out with one of the most perfect, heartbreaking endings of all time. This was the perfect note, the perfect way to send off Hugh Jackman from the iconic role he has had for 17 years to conclude Patrick Stewart's 17-year run as Professor Xavier, to say goodbye and to honor these characters with an amazing film. That's why Logan is number 3 for me. What a movie. I know there are problems in that third act. I know that the big battle has some CGI problems and turns into a big baddie comic book fest. But guess what? I don't care. I loved Wonder Woman, period. I saw this movie 6 times in the movie theater. I bought the merchandise, I got a ton of shirts. I even bought 2 different versions of the Blu-ray. I was obsessed with Wonder Woman. I absolutely loved this film. First of all, it was my most anticipated film of 2017. So to have the film you're most looking forward to deliver automatically makes you pretty pumped. But it's shot and directed beautifully by Patty Jenkins. The musical score is amazing, and it's wonderfully acted. Gal Gadot has now embodied herself in the brains of millions forever as Wonder Woman. She was so fantastic in this role. She brought such a complete and beautiful character to the screen. Chris Pine was amazing, a wonderful love interest. Themyscira was amazing, bringing to life this wonderful Amazonian island. And we were able to create this wonderful, inspiring comic book film. It was a comic book film. We had the superpowers on display. We had all the origin story tropes, the fish out of water aspects, but they were all done so well. They were done possibly better than any other origin story, any other fish out of water story in the comic book realm. And then we get to the defining moment in all of cinema for me in 2017, and that was the No Man's Land scene. It literally took my breath away in the movie theater each and every time I saw it in theaters. Again, that musical score coupled with Diana emerging for the very first time as Wonder Woman was simply amazing. The scene is shot perfectly. It's flawlessly executed. And then we get to the end with that emotional heft, and that's the thing. Even once we're amongst the bigness, we're amongst the fighting and the big superhero-y battle at the end, it never loses the heart that it had maintained, it had built, and all of the emotions just paid off in that moment. I loved Wonder Woman, and it was so hard actually not putting this as my number one. I went back and forth, but this easily could have been a tie at the top because I love this film so much. So before I unveil my pick for the best film of 2017, here are a lot of honorable mentions. Beach Rat stuck with me long after I left that theater. I thought it was a great tale and one that went largely underappreciated. The Post was one of the last films I saw for 2017. It was beautifully acted, beautifully directed, and told an incredibly relevant story. Okja was a heartbreaking, amazing little film about this big pig, this super pig, and his girl, his owner, his friend. And it was one of the saddest and most emotional films I saw in 2017. Professor Marston and the Wonder Women told the very interesting and largely unknown origin of the famous character Wonder Woman, and it told it in such a beautiful and amazing way, bolstered by fantastic acting performances. This was definitely one that was also underappreciated this past year. Phantom Thread was the final film I saw from 2017, and one that completely shocked me. I loved it. It was sleek, it was cool, it was smart. It was everything I wasn't expecting heading into the theater. Detroit was real, gritty, and delivered possibly one of the best acts I saw in all of 2017. The second act of this film was a feat. To deliver such a horrific sight for an entire third of the film in the middle of this race drama? Spectacular. More great performances and an amazing true story. Battle of the Sexes is a crowd-pleasing sports film that I think everyone should give a shot. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is possibly the most divisive Star Wars yet to date. I thought it looked gorgeous. I had a ton of fun with some amazing fan service moments mixed in with some cutting-edge, boundary-pushing ideas from director Rian Johnson. Good Time was, in fact, a very good time. A thriller drama that is all held together by a career-defining performance from Robert Pattinson. Another one people should really give a shot. Wind River delivers another knockout from Ty Sheridan, where we look at an underseen community of Native American women and the crimes committed against them. And my honorary Number 11 is Ingrid Goes West. A harrowing look at social media and the effects it's having on our society when it comes to mental illness and loneliness. This was a wonderful film. So now, my number one best film of 2017 is... It was hard for me to describe what I was feeling as I left Call Me By Your Name. And now that I've had some time away from the film, that I've really had that distance, I still cannot stop thinking about this movie. Pretty much each and every day, I go back and think about this film. I've ordered the soundtrack, I've ordered the book, and I have to say, not something I'm necessarily proud of. I haven't read, and I can't even remember how long. And that's kind of what the deciding factor was for me. It's so much easier for a comic book film or an action film, something that's really feel good, to get me back in that theater, to really inspire me, to get that fandom up and running within me. But for an over 2-hour long drama romance to do that is something special. This film swept me up into a fantasy that I probably wish that I could have, that I desire to be a part of. It transported me into the Italian countryside by this wonderful score, this amazing screenplay, and this beautiful, realistic love story. With fantastic performances across the board, from Armie Hammer, who is better than I've ever seen him, Michael Stolberg, fantastic, and a key part to really the heart of this film. And then we have Timothée Chalamet, who I think gives the best male performance of the year, period. So much nuance, it felt real, it was grounded, it was everything. I mean, his performance really elevated the entire film. The original songs in this movie are just devastating, they're beautiful, they're sad, I've been listening to them on repeat. The cinematography is amazing and gorgeous and lush, and that ending was perfect. Just perfect. And really, from all filmmaking standpoints, this movie is virtually perfect. Top to bottom, beautifully, meticulously well executed, with the perfect amount of heart, emotion, and romance injected to create a truly memorable film that's deserving of the number one spot on my favorite films for 2017. So those are my picks for the best films of 2017. What did you think of my list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think of the films that I included? And more importantly, what's your list? Go ahead and share your personal favorite films of the year in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!